the more you fail, the more you learn. And as long as it's not a failure that lands you living on the sidewalk, it's still beneficial. And you can learn from that, and you don't repeat the same mistake twice.
So the first thing I wanted to explore with you is, before we get into the store itself, I want to hear a little bit about like your background, where you grew up, your relationship with gaming, and what became the impetus that led to the game store.
So I grew up in a very small town in the middle of North Dakota. You know, about a half hour from the Canadian border, and we didn't have a ton to do. I'm a little older. I'm in my 40s, so MTG was a mid high school thing for me. Pokemon came around in the 90s, as I graduated high school in 98. So when Pokemon was starting to go up in 99, that was a um, kind of a transition point for me moving to college. So I stuck with Magic through college. Went and got a master's in computer science. When I got out of college and had to go get a big boy job, I realized that things like bills were a lot tougher out of college, and ended up selling out of my Magic collection. Um, Fast forward 20 years later, I have a 6-year-old daughter who's starting to get into Pokemon, and I used to be into Magic, and we kind of bonded and ran with that. I started getting back into playing Magic again, mostly on a casual commander level. Um, and then, of course, my kiddo was getting into Pokemon really heavy. There wasn't a ton of good stores here where I was locally. There was one place that was open, from like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. 2 nights a week when the guy wasn't working late, kind of thing. Um, and so we started ordering online, doing some bigger stuff like that, and ended up with a ton of bulk, and started to take over an entire corner of my garage and 5 rows of stuff that we didn't want. We were going through and building master sets of some of the Pokemon sets, and of course, by the time you get the master set, you have 20,000 cards that aren't part of the master set. And so I found this site called TCG Player, and we opened and just kind of started selling off extra cards, um, and it just grew from there. And it was something fun because my daughter and I could sit down and sort through cards, and we got orders in. It was super exciting. We got to sit down and put them in envelopes and stuff. We became a level 4 seller. We became a direct seller, started doing direct orders, and kind of grew to the point where we ran out of room. And so when we ran out of room, we decided, okay, well, this is something that's cool. This is doing good. I was at a point, I've been working remotely at my day job through most of the pandemic, and things were starting to open back up. So we went out and we started looking for warehouse space. We're in Bend, Oregon. The cost of ground here is exorbitantly expensive because we're kind of a mountain town, ski town kind of thing, and we're surrounded by federal forests. And it turned out that the cost to rent a warehouse was about 10% less than the cost to rent a retail space. And we went, well, God, we could throw some tables up, and if all we ever do is sell on the internet and we have some cool tables to play at, that works great. And it's turned into so much more than that. We've been 2.5 years open now. We've got an amazing community. We have play 6 nights a week here in store. We're closed on Mondays so that my wife and I have a day to catch up. And it's just super fun. We get to interact with cool people every day. We have built an absolutely phenomenal, supportive, open community of gamers and collectors. And every day it grows and we add more to it. Business wise, we do singles, we do sealed. We focus almost entirely on trading card games. We don't do board games. We don't do miniatures. We don't do just mostly Magic. Pokemon. We're a Pokemon League store. We're a Yu-Gi-Oh! TS store. We're a Lorcana Play store. And always moving forward with a focus on the play.
What was the reason for focusing only on the TCGs?
When we opened, I could have put $500,000 in inventory on the ground and still not gotten all of the cool stuff I wanted in the store. When we opened, we knew TCGs. We had developed processes through working at home and selling online, as far as how singles work and how we categorize and how we price sync and stuff like that. we'd run into some software solutions along the line that allowed us to have our own website where our prices synchronized. And that just, it really, we'd rather do one thing really good than try to do everything in the hobby space, right? We could do miniatures, we could do paint, and we tried. We had Warhammer in for 3 or 4 months, and it was a very different vibe and a very different flow. When you have a customer that wants to come in and sit down and paint, and you're running learn to paint classes, right? That's 2 tables for 6 hours. And when the learn to paint class is done, you got to get out the isopropyl alcohol and clean the tables up so the card players can sit down and play on them. Whereas with the TCGs, it fit how we wanted to operate the store a lot better.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think you're one of the first stores that I've talked to that's directly, targeted TCGs as the focus point, which I think is a smart way to look at it, especially when you consider what you just brought up about, doing Warhammer and how much more, overhead there is with that and just the bottleneck from transitioning to one game to another. Did you always see yourself running a game store at some point someday, or did you, based upon what you described, it kind of seems like you fell into it just from over time of selling?
We really did. When I got out of college with a computer science master's, and I went to work in the industry, and this was 2 or 3 years after the .com bubble had just blown up and that entire industry was eviscerated. And I ended up sitting in a cubicle coding somewhere. I was a new guy, so I got stuck on graveyard shift. I had split days off. The money was phenomenal, but I was miserable. And so I ended up stepping away from that and starting my own business in a different industry, helping people quit smoking and working with technologies based around that. And that kind of took off and it stuck. And I did that for 15 or 20 years professionally. When my daughter was born, I was in the midst of that, and my wife and I were both working 80, 90-hour weeks. We were fortunate. We were in a position where my folks were ready for retirement, like at about the same time my daughter was born. So they took retirement, and we took them on, and kind of just had the giant 4-generation Brady Bunch in a house, and it worked, but it wasn't a long-term solution. My wife and I were working, like I said, with commute, a solid 90-hour week. And we never saw our kiddo. We got to hang out with the kiddo on Sunday, and the rest of the week, my folks were raising her, and we went, well, this just isn't what we want to do. And so we got out of that. I took some consulting work in that industry and worked remotely. We got out. We were in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. We got out of Phoenix and came up to the mountains in Oregon, and just kind of slowed things down a little bit. And it was good for a couple of years, and owning my own business, the itch started again. And when my daughter and I started getting into Pokemon, those two things kind of intersected, and here we are.
How did Bend, Oregon become the location that you settled on? You said coming from North Dakota.
Yeah, so I grew up and started my first business in North Dakota. Through the nicotine industry, I ended up down in Arizona. It was always a very small town. The town I grew up in was 900 people, right? Phoenix was not where I wanted to raise my daughter. It was not where I wanted to have a family. It was not where I wanted to spend my life. It's just not my style. And through the same industry, I had some contacts up here that were looking for some consulting work. And so I had the opportunity to come up here and work, 10 or 15 hours a week in store, spending the rest of the week working from home, spending time with my family. And 6 months after we moved up here was when they shut everything down from the pandemic. And so we really kind of tucked in. We ended up buying a home here, kind of settling and making a life for ourselves here. And when the card store came around, it was just a fit. Bend is a very, very intriguing city to run a small business in. Like I said, square footage is exorbitantly expensive. Our play tables are probably the most expensive per square foot outside of major metros like LA. But we're in a town of 100,000 people, so we don't have the millions of people to feed the store as LA. It's part of the reason that we really honed in and specialized is we wanted to find that TCG crowd, those Magic players, those Pokemon players, those Yu-Gi-Oh players, and really just zone in and be the place for that.
And are you solely focused running the game store at this point? Or are you doing any other job on the side?
Nope. This is 100%. It's my wife and I. We have one, I guess legally full time, but I still consider her part time. She's here 8 hours, 4 days a week. And then one guy that comes in 2 hours, 2 mornings a week to help work through singles and online orders and stuff like that. And that's it. And our hours are limited. We through the week we don't open until 2 p.m. We're closed on Mondays. Weekends we're open 11 to 7 all day. Um, weeknights obviously we do gameplay all week. So the tournament starts at 6 p.m. Sometimes it's 10:30, 11 by the time we're done. So we don't have any desire to be here at 9 a.m. and open. When we first opened, we were 11 to 7, 7 days a week, and we had a lot of downtime. We were still growing, and we definitely had work to do in the back. But as far as paying the money to have an employee to have the store open, it just wasn't viable. We were specialized and niche enough that most of our customer base wasn't ready to come out and play until 2:30, 3 o'clock anyway. So the 11 a.m. was kind of a waste.
How long did it take to realize that opening up in the afternoon was a better fit for you?
It was about a year. Um, when we started really heavily. Well, not heavily, but we started well capitalized. We didn't. I talked to guys who come in and go, "Yeah, I started the game store. I had $1,000 in my pocket." I've run enough businesses. I knew better than to try that. So we started with a decent amount of capital and really tried to just open it and go full bore. And like I said, we had Warhammer in, we had like D&D miniatures, we do D&D nights, stuff like that. And we pulled back from a lot of that and just focused on the core of what we're good at, which is TCGs and singles. So it was probably, I think it was, so we opened in October on Halloween, and we did an entire year at 11 to 7. And I think as we were coming out of winter the next year, that we decided that 2 to 8 was just a better fit for our customer base.
And from that period of time, once you had that settled out and you have the part-time employee that you mentioned, other than that, you're there all the time, if I'm understanding correctly.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm here from the time I come in and start working on stuff in the back end at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning until the tournaments are done between 9 and 11 at night. Wednesdays is our open play commander night. We don't have a sanctioned tournament running that night, so Wednesdays I'm kind of here as needed. But that's one of the days that our part timer works, and she's very capable and can handle the 2 to 8 in the store all by herself with no interference from me. I usually still end up in here most weeks doing stuff. Our big fundraiser nights that we do once a month are on Wednesdays, so obviously I'm here for those all day. And then weekends, it depends. We just have a basic Saturday, Sunday without a Pokemon Cup or a Magic Regional or something. Saturdays are our big tournament day, right? We have Pokemon and Lorcana scheduled at noon every Saturday. Those are a small enough, close enough crew where if we have a Yu-Gi-Oh set release or we have a Magic Regional qualifier or something, we put those on Saturdays as well. And those are the Saturdays that I'll be in. Then Sundays, I try to spend home with my family. That's another just open play. We do what we call Commander and Donuts. We have a cool little family-owned donut shop next to us, and so Sunday morning we'll go around, we'll get 2 dozen donuts, and everybody come in and grab a donut and sit down and jam some Commander games and kind of hang out. It's a very, very chill vibe day. It's a very relaxed. There's no tournaments, no prizes, no chaos. So those are another day that I can kind of float in and out.
No, that's great. And it seems like what you've also developed, having talked to some other store owners where, you have to live sometimes the job. You seem to have carved out with specializing in TCGs and, with the way you've structured your store hours, you seem to have created a work-life balance for you to be able to still spend time with your family while running the store.
To a point, yeah. I mean, there's weeks, last Friday we had a Magic set release. This Friday we've got another Magic set release and a Pokemon release. So the last 2 or 3, and the Friday before that we had a Pokemon release. So this month has been a little crazy. But most months when the manufacturers don't decide to push 5 sets our way in 30 days, it does okay. And it's nice too. My daughter still collects Pokemon. she's learned to play Magic, so she'll come out on Commander days and sit and play Commander with Dad and whoever else is in the store. She's 11 years old, and she'll hit the point where she's like, I want to play with you, Dad, and she'll go find her own pod and start her own pod. And so it's nice to, when you go to work and you go to cubicle, bring your kid to work day seems kind of silly, right? It's like,
Right.
what's my kid gonna do? Sit there and watch me type all day? But when mine's got the day off of school, or if it's a weekend or something, she's always thrilled to come in and hang out and play cards, and she's gotten to know a lot of the regulars. Just she's become part of the community that's developed around this store, and it's been super cool.
I bet. Yeah, I mean, it's great that you get to share that with her too. And I think it's even great too that you get to still play. I know sometimes that's not always the case with running an operation like a game store. How did you find the time to carve that out, or was it like intentional? You knew you still wanted to be able to play.
It's very intentional, right? Everybody, I know when I opened the store, hang out and I want to play cards all day. This could be super cool. It's gonna be the best job in the world. And then you realize that like once you're running the store, you're going to play 80% less than you've ever played before. So as we've grown and we've matured and we've kind of settled into schedules and routines, I intentionally make time to go, okay, cool. It's Tuesday afternoon. I know I've got this group of regulars coming in at 3. I know I've got to start running tournaments at 6. So I'm just going to take 3 hours and sit down and jam some cards. So it's very intentional.
Do you think that from your past experience with having the previous business and just your previous jobs in general, did any of them you feel prepare you for running a game store like you're doing now? Did having started a business in general give you maybe a leg up in that category?
Absolutely. I joke with my wife. I spent all this money on my computer science degree, and the business degree that I learned just by failing has been infinitely more valuable. And even in this business, as we've started here, we've made financial mistakes. We have invested into sets that didn't pan out. We have, all sorts of things, right? But it's all a learning experience. And I think the more you fail, the more you learn. And as long as it's not a failure that lands you living on the sidewalk, it's still beneficial. And you can learn from that, and you don't repeat the same mistake twice.
What would you say is the biggest learning curve with running a game store, and what has been in this area of business for you? What has been your personal biggest learning experience?
I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize is they're focused on the product. They're focused on how do we sell more product? How do we sell more product? How do we sell more product? And the problem is that focusing on that leaves so many other pieces behind. And there's the piece of how do we get the product? Sometimes you see a set coming out and it's going to be a rough set, but you go ahead and you go heavy in it anyway because the set after that is great, and you don't want your spend and your allocations to drop. That was a huge thing for me. I'd always operated in an industry where, I needed inventory. I'll call the company that makes it, and whether I need 500 of these or 50,000 of these, it doesn't matter. I can call and then put it on a pallet and get it to me. And the TCG game is not that. It is a constant. I call my distributor and go on. Hey man, what do you have in that warehouse for Pokemon? Because my shelf is empty of Pokemon right now, and I've got people coming in looking for Pokemon. And then there's the community aspect as well of we're a retail store, right? That's our business model. That's our government classification. But we are also a community hub that the retail store supports. And focusing on that, I think, has been the biggest thing that has helped us grow and helped us do the things that we want to do for the community to just make it bigger and better and be a more awesome place to play. If somebody comes in the door and buys a pack of cards and walks out, cool, you put $5 in the till, and you made 40% on that, neat. If somebody comes in and sits down and plays a game, they're hanging out, they're buying a soda, maybe their buddy goes, hey man, you want a pack war? And they both come up and buy a pack, or there's a single in the case that they need. There's so many more opportunities for revenue there that I think a lot of shops miss out on. We are a free play space. The only time we charge is when it's a prize tournament. If I got 8 guys sitting down to play a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, it's $5 a head to get in, and everybody gets a pack, and the winner gets some more packs. But like to just come in and sit down with your buddies and throw some cards. We've never charged for, and we never will. But when those people come in and sit down in the play space, oh, cool. The whole, one guy gets up and buys the table a round of sodas, right? I mean, it's more than we would have gotten charging them to sit down and play. I see these places charging for play, and it baffles me.
Is there any downside from a financial perspective with running the business that having the free play space offers? And I ask that knowing that a lot of stores do offer the free play space, which I think is great because, like you mentioned, there's the residual income that can come from somebody buying the soda for the table that's playing for free. So I was wondering, that aside, if you see any financial issues where that would not be possible to offer the free play space.
The only time we have any issues with it is if we're doing large paid tournaments, right? We currently seat 40. Over the next 60 days here, we're going to be expanding that to 56. We're going to be adding 16 more seats with some remodeling and stuff. Hence the mess and the disaster behind me right now. We're kind of in process there. But the only downside we've ever seen is if we fill all the seats with paid tournament players, we do get some folks that'll come in and, maybe a group of 4 has planned to come in on a Saturday afternoon and play Commander, and they come in and it's like, oh, well, holy crap, this regional qualifier sold out. I'm sorry, there's not a place for you to sit. And sometimes there's some bad feelings there, right? But outside of that, it's been only positives. Sometimes we'll have players come out, right, and life happens and everybody's in a different financial situation. And sometimes somebody wants to come out and sit down and maybe they don't have the $5 in their pocket to pay to play. But if they can come out and they can sit down, maybe their buddy buys them a soda. I don't know. Maybe they bring a soda from home. I don't care. They come out and they have a good time and they have fun and they feel welcome and they feel invited to come back. They will. And maybe that's the guy who chronically never has $5 in his pocket to buy a soda. Maybe he's got some buddies that do. It doesn't, we don't get too hung up on that. We welcome everybody in. We build a community. We have a fun place to play. And the rest kind of tends to work itself out. Now, from a business perspective, it's do you want to turn away those people? If you've got a normal play group that comes out and maybe one guy loses his job on Wednesday, so when he wants to come out and play Friday night, he tells his buddies, "I don't have the $5, I can't come." Now, maybe one of his buddies has to cover. Whatever. We want to take those obstacles away so that people can come out and play.
It's the relationship building. That's
absolutely
going beyond just a sale and creating a relationship with those customers that make them want to come back. And like you mentioned, having them sit down and play is a whole different thing than just coming in, buying something quickly and leaving. So what is the encouragement side of that to, I guess, help encourage people to sit down and play? What types of things do you do to try to, encourage, say, a shy person who may just be looking to get in and out as fast as they can, to actually sit down and playing and, get to meet some of the other people there?
So we do everything we can to enable that, right? We have, new player acquisition is another thing that's been super important to us. We have Magic the Gathering has the starter commander decks that they publish, right? We have a set of those sleeved up sitting behind the counter. If somebody wants to come in, maybe 4 guys come in and one of them doesn't have a commander deck. Cool, man, you can borrow one of ours to sit down and play with your buddies. We do new player learning events once or twice a month to bring people in and learn to play. People are shy. We'll do our best. You can kind of tell when somebody's standing at the counter, right? They come in and they buy a pack and they're talking about building this commander deck. And you're like, hey, man, it's commander day. Why don't you sit down and play? Well, I don't really know anybody. We've built enough of a community where everybody who works here knows somebody in the building almost all of the time that they can walk up to and go, hey, let me introduce you to this guy. You can sit down. They got a pot of 3. They're looking for a 4th one. Here you go. On a constructed competitive level, we have our Magic the Gathering modern scene is super good here. We have a very dedicated group of probably 20 people that play, and they're all super. Modern's a very financially intensive format to step into, but they're all, oh no man, here we'll borrow you some cards, we'll get you in, play, see, it'll be fun. And the community has kind of started to work itself around that. And I think that most of our regular players realize the way that we do, that if they chase people out of the store and they're unwelcoming to people, they won't have a place to play.
Yeah, I think what's key that you brought up there too was your very first point, which was somebody knowing somebody in the store that you can introduce somebody to help facilitate a
Mhm.
game with them, to get them comfortable to start playing. And I know it may not have been, something that you did consciously. It could have just been just like, natural, just to introduce yourself to people, and, eventually, somebody to refer somebody who's new coming in to play. Is that something that you top of mind were aware of that you were doing? Because I think it's a very smart way to approach, a game store to, encourage people to play.
Yeah, I mean, we're a family store, so it's always been common sense to me to know the people that are sitting in my store playing. Even now, Sunday I was in here and I was doing some card sorting and shipping some orders and stuff, and we had a pod sitting down with four people playing that I didn't know, and I just walked up, hey, I'm Steve, I'm the owner. Did you, it's free donut day. Did you get a donut? Here's the sign in thing on the screen. Here's a couple promo cards if you sign in that helps us get stuff like this. And just have those conversations to get them engaged and interacting with the community. Um, the more somebody could go sit at a Starbucks and with four buddies and play Magic, right? But they come here and they play because they feel engaged, they feel welcome, they feel like they're part of something here. um, sure, it's cool, we have a snack bar, it's cool, they can go up and we got cases of singles if they need a card for their deck or whatever. But it's the that feeling of belonging, right? That feeling of being a part of something more than just you and your three buddies that are sitting down and playing, or you and your buddy that are sitting and jamming a game of Pokemon or whatever.
And you mentioned too about, new player acquisition always being something, any store would obviously want to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
And are there ways or any marketing things that you've done outside of, people that come in naturally, to get the name out about the store? Do you work with any other businesses within the community of Bend?
Yeah, so we've got a couple things that we do. We work with and support a lot of our local schools, whether it's a PTA auction, or one of the schools for a year was doing after school clubs, and so we volunteered and we went out and we did an after school club of learn to play Pokemon, where the kids could come in and learn to play. Um, Pokemon is very much a struggle because it's very much a collector's market. The players market is very rough. It's people say, "Oh, Pokemon's so inexpensive to get into," but the inexpensiveness of those cards makes them almost inaccessible, outside of a TCG player order and waiting 2 weeks to get all your cards in. It's not something that's easily picked up on a local level. So we've worked really hard to find ways to address that and find ways to get kids in and playing, get families in and playing. We have 3 or 4 families, where the mom or the dad plays, and then they'll come in with their 2 or 3 kids and they'll all play and they'll participate in our tournaments and stuff. And that's what we've really with Pokemon, we've really focused from like the base level up from the kids, because every kid loves Pokemon. You can't go into an elementary school and go, "Hey, who hates Pokemon?" Nobody's standing up. Um, but getting them from the, "Oh, look, I got all these shiny cards," to, "Holy crap, there's a game around this and this is actually fun," is a pretty big step. So we've focused really heavily on that. On the Magic side of things, we've started reaching out. It's a new thing we started doing in 2025 called our Come Out and Play Days, and we schedule that the first Wednesday of every month. And we find a local charity or a local organization that is out in our community here doing things, to help the community, right? Because again, our players, all walks of life, right? I've got guys coming in here that just got fired from their shift at Taco Bell and want to play Magic. I've got guys coming in here that are a VP of something at whatever tech company, making 400 grand a year, and everything in between. um, and so we look at where our community can best be served. We kicked it off in January with an organization called Central Oregon Out, or excuse me, Out Central Oregon, and they're an LGBTQ advocacy group here in Oregon, and we brought them out. And we did some raffles, we raised some money for them. We had all of our players come out and actually meet the staff that works at the organization. Any of our players that might be in a situation where they could use that organization's help. Now we've built that bridge and given that familiarity. And we also run new player days, right? So people that follow the organization and maybe are like, "What the hell is Magic?" Cool. Well, come out. help support the organization that you have an interest in and you care about, and we'll sit down and we'll teach you Magic. And we get volunteers from our community that come in, and we'll sit down with the new player kits and just teach people to play all day. We've got commander tables running in the back. We've got open play tables running for whoever wants to come in and play and support. And that's been we did our first one in January. We're doing our second one this coming Wednesday, February 5th. And we're really excited about it. We're working hard with local orgs to get one of these set up every month through 2025, and really just use that to reach out to the community.
We're going to take a quick break from this podcast to talk about our sponsor, Cardboard Shuffle. Cardboard Shuffle was our 10th podcast interview here at the Match Slip with store owner Mark. Mark has expanded his brand and has produced his own card sleeves called Shuffle Shields. Shuffle Shields come in packs of 100 premium matte card sleeves for standard size trading cards. They contain no PVC and are acid-free. I have 17 packs of Shuffle Shields card sleeves to give away to listeners of the podcast and followers of the Match Slip on social media. Requests for a free pack of card sleeves shipped for free to you will be processed on a first-come, first-served basis. To receive your free pack of Shuffle Shields, you'll need to send a screenshot that you're following Cardboard Shuffle on Facebook to frank@thematchslip.com. What would you say is the most popular game at your store, since TCGs make up the bulk of what you do, since that's your target? What is the most popular game? A part of me wants to say that it is Magic, would be my guess.
But, okay. Yep. Pokemon's an interesting market, right? Because Pokemon is a very, very hot or not market. Right now, winter of 24-25, Pokemon's super hot. They're not printing a lot of it. It's not out there. We're back to this, people getting in fights at Costco over boxes of Pokemon stuff, right? But it also goes the other way, where there's times where it's like, oh, look, we bought all this Pokemon for this new set and we've sold 10% of it in a month and it's still sitting there because nobody cares. Magic has been much more consistent for us. The hot months, Pokemon out earns Magic. But the down months, it completely flip-flops. And we, as a business owner, it's really nice when those big Pokemon months come and like we get that like, hey, cool, we paid rent in 2 days of sales. This feels super good, right? But the consistency is what makes the store viable. If we're in that slow month, where it's summer and everybody's outdoors doing stuff and nobody cares about the Pokemon set. Hey, there's a new Magic set. We're going to have Magic players in to buy that Magic set regardless. And so that's something that we've focused on. I would say over the course of the year, Magic is probably accounts for 3/4 of our revenue. It's very interesting to hear when you say, a new Magic set comes out, people will be here regardless. And I don't doubt that at all. It's very interesting when you look at the different games and how Magic always has that, no matter what it is, no matter what complaints there might be online, it sells almost regardless. Why do you think that is? Is it just the brand of Magic at this point? I think Magic the Gathering does something right that a lot of other games don't do, in that they're collectible cards, right? There's value to them. Magic doesn't focus on that. Magic focuses on playing the game. You look at Pokemon, and Pokemon runs regional tournaments. They have Pokemon Worlds, stuff like that. But you go up to anybody and ask them, hey, what do you know about Pokemon cards? Like, I don't know, Charizard's valuable, right? Like that is the public perception of Pokemon, is this is a collector's product. And Pokemon has on certain sets gone all in on the lottery ticket, scratcher ticket aspect of the product. And I think that then when a set comes out that they didn't pick the right character for, that whatever the chase card is just doesn't vibe with the community, I think that hurts. Whereas Magic, these guys are playing Magic, right? It's a game to them. They're coming out to play a game, not to pull a lottery ticket. And there's a new set and there's cool cards in there that I want to play. I don't care if I buy $100 box. It's cool if I pull a $200 card, but I don't pull a $200 card. I have a pile of cards here that I'm going to play. And so there's still consumer value there without the shiny lottery ticket at the end. And I think that has kept Magic much more consistent as a business model than Pokemon, than One Piece, than whatever other game that they want to get into. And with Pokemon being a game that you can play too, I've always wondered why there isn't the same type of player base with Magic and Pokemon.
kind of like the big two in terms of popularity. And
Absolutely.
and like you mentioned too, a collector market for Pokemon. I mean, I too collect Pokemon. I don't play Pokemon,
Mhm.
but I play Magic, so it falls directly in line with what you're saying.
Yep.
And I've just been never able to wrap my head around with Pokemon having a game, and yet it, even though they have worlds, for example, as you mentioned, I've always wondered why, like, because you have some markets where there is a player base for playing the game, but many cases, it seems like the majority of the cases, it's a collector market. And I wonder, from your standpoint as a store owner and based on conversations you've had, is it just the gameplay of Pokemon is not as intrinsic, or is require the same amount of thinking like Magic does?
No, I mean they're both, they both have their own fair share of metagaming. They both have their own fair share of thought involved in them. The two big differences that I see is public perception being the first one. Magic Magic is a game for adults, right? Like it's rated 13 plus, right? A lot of people view Pokemon as a kid's card game. And so that kind of discourages adults from, even adults that collect, right? Like I've had 40-year-old customers come in my store and they've got 10 grand in cool Pokemon slabs at home and they've never thought about playing the game. It's just never crossed their mind because that's a kid's game, right? Whereas with Magic, it's an adult oriented game. We very less often see young, 8 to 13-year-old kids playing Magic as we do adults. The only time we really see adults come in and play Pokemon is when they're coming in with their kids, or if they're an adult that we have managed to work across that hump of, no, this is actually fun and competitive. But it takes a lot of effort to get there.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Because I mean, even when you look at the Pokemon game itself, I remember for the first time not too long ago that TCG Pocket app for the
Yep.
iPhone, for example. I played for the first time just to see the very bare bones basics of what the game was like.
Mhm.
And to your point, it didn't appeal to me at all, like the way Magic has appealed to me since I was a teenager.
No.
And when I see the game, my first thought personally wasn't that it just because a kid's game, which I never actually thought of that, which it's an excellent point. But when I see it, my immediate thought goes to comparing it to the gameplay of Magic. And I wonder if, because of how focused Wizards of the Coast is with perfecting the game and always looking to improve and add to it and the complexity of it, I've always wondered if that was also a maybe a negative for the side of Pokemon, because it like almost like it's a lot to live up to from a gameplay standpoint.
Yeah, and there's a feedback loop there that kind of feeds itself, right? If Pokemon goes outside the box and tries something different gameplay wise, and and it's a bomb, and everybody hates it, right? Like, I mean, you play Magic banding, okay?
Yeah.
Or Magic, terrible mechanic, right? Everybody hated it. Um, if Pokemon does that, and Pokemon loses 50% of their player base due to that, that is 50% of their player base, but that player base is like 10% of their revenue, right? It's nowhere near as big of a shot. So I don't know, and I'm not a Pokemon designer, but from a business standpoint, Pokemon doesn't have the incentive to optimize and make that gameplay so engaging like Magic does. Um, you don't see guys, running around at shows with, you know, boxes of slabbed Magic cards. You see that with Pokemon cards. It's a collector's market, and I think to a point TCPI knows that, and knows that the dollars invested in making the gameplay more engaging probably ever isn't going to reward them on the same level as pushing towards the collectors. And then the opposite with Magic. If Magic doesn't play test right, and ends up, putting out a buster, they just did it here with Nadu, 6 months ago, right?
Right.
And the public backlash from that was rough. Like, Wizards took a pretty big black eye for releasing a card that was broken in Modern, and then banning it in Modern, going, well, but we designed it for Commander, that's why it didn't work. And then a month and a half, 2 months later, banning it in Commander and going, yeah, I guess it's broken there too. We didn't play test it enough. It created and regardless of anyone's personal feelings on it, it created a very negative push out there in the community, and a lot of people, either pointing and laughing or shaking their fist angrily at Wizards for it. I don't think that the Pokemon game lives under that level of scrutiny. So that I don't think the Pokemon designers are then and pushed as hard to make the gameplay that engaging as they are to make cool arts and cool characters that sell to collectors.
That makes a lot of sense. But I wonder if, from your standpoint, like when, say, something does get banned or there is the backlash related to a card, granted, the game store owners don't have anything to do with the card design or anything like
Right.
that. But when those types of things occur, bannings, for example, or negative feelings towards a card because of what it's doing to various formats, does that hurt anyway financially from a game store standpoint? I've always wondered where that line is, and if it really, or if it doesn't have any bearing on from the store
No,
standpoint.
it can. It doesn't usually affect sealed, because the amount of times where there's been a day one super important ban on a chase card in a Magic set or something. I mean, I can count on one hand, but a lot of times when cards are banned on the secondary market, when it comes to selling singles, the value takes a hit, right? And that's something that, as a store owner, I mean, look, we're gambling as much as the guy opening the boxes some days. You know, people come in to sell us singles, and we buy based on the market value of the single. When Fury was banned in Modern, Fury was a $50 or $60 card, 15 or 20 of them in inventory at the time, and overnight they were a $6 card. And you just look at that and you go, okay, well, we take our lumps and we move on. There isn't it's one of those where in the grand scheme of things, it just has to be a small enough portion of your business. Um, that it doesn't hurt too bad. But it's financially painful for sure, for sure. I have a wall of shame on my desk of cards that I bought for way too much money. And either when we first opened, cards that I bought that were fake, that turned out to be fake, and I paid too much money for them, or cards that we have bought when they were hot in a format, and we went out and kind of went heavy on stocking up, and paid a little more for them to get them from people because we knew they were hot and they'd turn over, and then when they get banned, we got a stack of them in hand and get caught with our pants down.
What is your favorite thing about Magic? Because I know it's something you play. Did you? And I know you play Commander, you said, for the most part now. Did you ever play competitive before?
I did, and I still try to. We're getting to standard format is actually back in a really cool spot now, and with Aether Drift, I'm kind of rearranging schedules where I'm going to be available to sit down and play in the standard tournaments Tuesday night, because it's something I've got back to enjoying again. That intentionality of I'm going to play cards, right?
That's cool.
I'd fallen a lot more into Commander just because that is the casual format where I can sit down with 3 or 4 people, and hey, if in the middle of the game I go, hey guys, sorry, I got to go help this customer real quick. Commander moves at a slow enough pace, and it's not a competitive format, it's not a time format. Where if I got to jump up and for 10 minutes help a customer with something because the store got busy and my employee's overwhelmed, I can do that. And so that's kind of, as a shop owner, that's kind of the natural choice to drop into. But yeah, I've played a little bit of Modern. I mean, I played competitive Type 1 at one point years and years and years ago, and it was super fun. I play a ton of Arena, which is kind of what's got me back into Standard. I'll help a lot of our guys, sit and play test or whatever. It's tough as a shop owner to play in the really competitive stuff. Like when we run a regional qualifier, I'm obviously not sitting down and entering a deck in that, because I'm the guy that's running the tournament, and that, regardless of rules, that's shitty. My guys are out there and they're trying to compete for an invite to go and play. There's bigger tournaments like that. We do a lot of store credit prizing, so there may be a couple $100 in store credit on the line. To insert myself into that and change the balance of that ecosystem, I refuse to do that. But on our casual, our Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday constructed Magic tournaments are $10 buy-in. We play 3 or 4 rounds. You get $5 in store credit for every round you win. Everybody gets a pack of cards. Just kind of chill thing. When I have the opportunity, I'll jump in for that. And my players give me crap too. Like, hey man, we're odd tonight. There's going to be a buy. Go get a deck. Sit your butt down. You're better than playing a buy.
That's great though, that your community wants you to play, and that you have the ability and the time to play. I mean, I think it's very great to see an owner very engaged with the customer base, because I think that can be, the impetus of people wanting to come back. They know, you're not like in the back somewhere, just crunching the numbers, and you're not visible to the community there. So I think that's a very commendable thing that you do.
Well, and Frank, I look at it this way: without the community, I have a big empty room with a lot of empty tables and a whole crap load of money and stuff sitting on a shelf that's really shiny.
Yeah, and then it's just
It's
shelving
yeah,
units.
yeah. If I didn't care about the community, I wouldn't be in 3,000 square feet of play space. I'd be in a little 600 square foot stall, and like you'd come up and order your pack, and I'd hand it to you, you'd swipe your card, and you get the hell out.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's in 3,000 square feet of space. I mean that's quite a gigantic play area. How much do you have it split between like retail versus the play space?
We do. We've got about 800 feet of retail. We've got about 1,300 feet of play space, and then we've got the remainder just kind of chilling in our back room where we have storage. We have singles. We've got a couple big card sorters and equipment and stuff like that. We've got backstock inventory. I've got a little desk back there that I can use when I'm counting tills down or whatever.
That's
So.
awesome. What's your day to day like?
I spend a lot of time here. Through the week it's a little easier because my kiddo's in school. I will, get up in the morning. I get to get up and have breakfast with my kid. My wife, either myself or my wife and I'll take her to school. Um, one or both of us will end up here. We're going through. As we're recording this today, I'm sitting here. We had a collection we bought from a customer. That I'm just sitting here. I've had the sorting machine split it out, and I'm sitting here sifting through, verifying the sorting machine, so I can start getting stuff into inventory. There's never nothing to do. I've never sat in the store and gone, God, I'm bored. What could I do? Um, there are times that I've had stuff to do and I've made the intentional choice to sit and play Magic, but it's never boring. Um, Usually I have the advantage because now we don't open till 2. If my wife doesn't come in with me, she's working on something at the house for the day, or it's her day to be like, hey, we have a house too, and I need to be there and you know vacuum and do dishes and like do laundry so you have clothes to wear to work kind of thing. I'll usually run home, have lunch with her, come back, open the store. If it's a day where I have help, uh, you know, our part timer is perfectly capable of coming in and open the store. Some of those nights I'll go get my kid from school because they're turning. My kid's out of school at 3:30. Tournament start at 6. I got to be there at 5 to kind of start things rolling. It times out really well. I get to pick her up. Maybe stop at McDonald's, grab a burger with my kiddo or something, take her home, and then come in. Um, it's it's a pretty good schedule. I
And
don't hate it.
no, I don't blame you. And I think the thing I actually like the most is the emphasis and the intent that you have with spending time with your family. I mean, just simply going home for lunch with your wife, playing with your kiddo, just doing those things. Because having a business, because you've had one before this,
Mhm.
it takes up a lot of your time. It could consume you in a lot of ways. But I love how intentional you make, finding that time. It's quite amazing how you've been able to carve out it all. I mean, I'm sure nothing's ever perfect, but the fact that you've gotten it to a really healthy place is just a great thing to see. And I like how not only is your daughter coming and playing at the store, but your wife's helping you out at the store. I, I like that it's a family environment, like you said.
Yeah, and that's very intentional. My like I said, my wife and I both came out of very, very, very busy careers, and when this came up, we stepped into it going, this is never going to make us $1 million a year, but if we can put enough into it to build a cool community, have a cool space, and keep our bills paid, then that's a win, right? And then still have time to do family things, to go on vacation, stuff like that. um, the end of March here, my wife and my kid and I are taking off, and it's 3 days, right? Like we're not getting on a plane and going to Paris. We're taking 3 days and driving out to the coast and staying in an Airbnb. But we're again intentionally planning, taking some time off, making sure things are good here. It's okay. It's not. I get people coming, oh man, you're in a game store, you must make $1 million a year, and I'm like, you don't know this industry very well. Like there's a reason so many of these things open and fail, because it's a very, very tough industry. Um, especially in the trading card, with us being focused on trading card games, if we get a bad Magic set and a bad Pokemon set both in 1 month, it's uncomfortable. I'm gonna make a bologna sandwich and bring it with me into work because I'm not going to Jimmy John's today.
Right. No, I completely understand where you're coming from. It's a big reason why I do this podcast, because I know there's a lot of people that listen or who aren't really familiar with, the low margins in general that are involved with running a game store and just all the little nuances behind it. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's a very important thing that I think gets missed, thinking that, oh, you own a business, you're a millionaire.
Right. And there's a lot of money tied up in it, right? And the numbers
Right.
sound big when you talk about, we've got a couple $100,000 in inventory on the ground. It's like, holy crap, but that's taken years to build. It's taken 2 years to build to that point. And every piece of that inventory could be my undoing if it just sits and rots. We've had a couple Magic sets, Assassin's Creed and Aftermath come to mind, where like by the end I'm going, okay, this is a $125 retail box. I own this thing for $100. You want 4 of them? Cool, $75. Get them out the door and get them gone, so I can take that cash and do something else with it. And people don't see that, right? They see here's this great Pokemon set, where they're getting $100 out of these $50 ETBs because everybody wants them. That must be a great business to be in. And at that point, on that day, it's a super cool business to be in. But there's an up and a downside to both of it. Like with the singles, there are times I'll buy a single and okay, cool, this is a $50 single. I'll give the guy $30 cash for it. He's happy. I put it in my case, and a week later, it's a $200 single, and I sell it for $190. Super cool. Love when that happens. There are as many, if not more, times where I buy a $50 card for $30 and it gets banned, or a new set drops and the meta shifts, and now that $50 card is $20, and I gotta kick it out the door for $15 just to get it gone. So it's a balancing act. I give people the analogy of opening boxes, right? You'll buy $100 box of Magic cards. Sometimes you open $300 worth of cards and it's super cool and you're on top of the world. Sometimes you open that $100 box and you got $18 worth of bulk sitting in front of you. It goes both ways. You got to do it enough times to get the average to level out, and you have to be intelligent during the good times.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely a crapshoot at the end of the day. And, that's the up and down, that you're referring to there.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, when you look at things how they are now with the store, what would you say is one positive? Either could be something you anticipated or didn't anticipate, and then on the opposite side, something that didn't go as you expected.
I think on the negative side, I expected that marketing has always been a huge challenge for us. I expected that word of mouth would carry us more, and it has, right? Everybody that comes in and plays and has a good time, everybody who plays Magic knows somebody who plays Magic, right? But we've been here 2.5 years, and 2 or 3 times a week, get somebody that walks in the door, oh my God, you guys have Pokemon? You guys have Commander precons? I didn't know you guys were here. I've been buying on Amazon the past 3 years, and we haven't cracked the code on how to get across that yet. And I did not expect that. I very much expected that, as close as the trading card game community was, that would just push and move and would get there. And we've done all sorts of marketing. We've done TV, we've done radio. We're doing the charity events this year. We do a whole bunch of digital stuff at 19 different directions. But I've always been very surprised at how many people who are prime customers of ours, right? We're not having to get these people into Magic. We're not having to get these people into Yu-Gi-Oh! These are guys that play. They just haven't stumbled across the place yet. Always surprised me. On a positive side, the amount of support and love that we get for what I look at is just having a cool play space, right? When we opened, we didn't go to Costco and buy folding tables and folding chairs, right? We went and we got commercial melamine steel tables. They're white tables. They look clean. They look good. We've got good solid chairs. We went through and we changed all the lights because when you're sitting and you're playing cards, if the light's glary or if the light's like that weird yellow tint, it makes everything look funky. So we went through and replaced those. But that's the same stuff that I do in my house to make my house more livable, right? And that's how we built the store out. And the people that come in and go, God, I can't believe how great this space is. It's heads and tails above the other ones I've been in. And I don't. We knew when we came in, we didn't want to be, what I call the mom's basement game shop, where you just feel like you're sitting in your buddy's mom's basement playing cards. We didn't want to be that, so we took some effort to go above and beyond that. But I'm surprised at the amount of stores out there that I see, and there are good there are good ones too. There are stores that have 1,000 times cooler play areas than I do. But the amount that get by or that struggle, and like they're running their tournaments on a folding table and a folding chair, and it's like, well, guys, would you want to go play there, or would you want to go play at the place with comfortable chairs and snacks and clean tables, you know? Um, and that's paid off way more dividends than I ever thought it would have been. I didn't think we did that good of a job. I thought we did a passable job when we built the place. I thought, hey, we clean the toilet once a day, we wipe the tables down, we vacuum the floor, and for some reason that we get just such phenomenal feedback on that.
That's awesome to hear. Could you describe a little bit, walking in the store for somebody that hasn't been there, a little bit of a visual of what it's like when they walk in, what they see?
Yeah, we come in. So we're in a mall. We're an interior store in a mall. We have one exterior wall with a side door that we use for deliveries, but we're in a mall, right? So you come in the main mall doors and you hang a left and you come through. We've got the big wide roll up gate, and we've got all our retail stuff up front. We've got cakes with deck boxes on them. We've got cakes with card sleeves and dice and stuff like that all up front. We've got two main counters. One of our counters is the snack bar. We've got all of our drinks there. We got a tall commercial fridge with a glass door to put all the drinks in, so you don't have to open the fridge to see what's in there. And basic snack bar stuff. We do most of our shopping at like the U.S. Foods and the Costco, right? Simple stuff. We try to do a little healthier, but anyhow, we've got that. On the snack bar, we have the coolest piece that we have in the store, and this was my prized eBay find when we were building out the store, is the old, I don't remember the vending machines that kicked out tattoos for 50 cents. We have one that's been rebranded for Pokemon sitting on the counter.
That's great.
And it's old, and it's well loved, and it has 4 slots, only 2 of them work. Like, the manufacture date on this thing was like 1996, so it's almost my age. It has seen some love. I don't work right all day either, so but it's super cool. And we go through when we get like bulk hollows, bulk full art, stuff like that, and we go through and we stock it with that. So the kid comes in and throws 50 cents in, and he gets a cool full art whatever, right? It's super fun. The kids love it. We keep a quarter jug behind the counter, because a lot of times kids will come in with their parents, and they're buying something. Kids like, oh, it's a machine. Oh, mommy doesn't have any quarters today. Oh, hey, here's 50 cents. Shove it in the machine, right? It's fun. It's been a super big attraction for us. And we have our main retail counter, and all of our sealed product is back there. We've got our big magic shelf. We've got our Pokemon stuff, our pre-con decks. And then once you move past the 2 counters, the area kind of opens up, and we have 5 big 8 top tables. We made the decision to do 8-foot tables with 4 seats at them. I've been in a lot of places, and on an 8-foot table, they'll put 6 seats on. So you're sitting with 3 people on 8 feet. We made the decision to let people spread out a little more, be a little more comfortable. I said they're white melamine, like kitchen countertop style tables. We've got 2 big TVs on the wall. One of them runs an ad reel of what we've got coming up, just or whatever promo graphics we have for the event that's coming, or the new set or whatever. And then we've got one that's always just hanging out on YouTube with, Magic gameplay or Pokemon gameplay or whatever. Next to the TVs, we've got a little retro arcade machine. It's got like Pac-Man and Galaga and that stuff on it. So if our guys are out and a tournament's running and somebody gets to buy, cool, what do I do for the 50-minute round? Oh, cool, you can go over and play Pac-Man, right? Go see if you can beat the high score. We've got a kind of my work area. We built it out as a more of like a tournament control booth kind of thing. It's just a little raised platform that I can sit up on where there's a work desk and I can see out over the area. We've got a big TV behind it that we can run our tournament softwares on. Um, and then we've got a bathroom and a back room. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Um, as we've grown over the years, we've ended up with more cool stuff to hang on the walls. We've got we got the big tall like 8-foot Charizard banner hanging on the wall. We've got whatever the new Pokemon set, new Magic set is hanging up. I've got a framed War of the Spark foil mythic sheet that I've got hanging on the wall. It's super cool. Just I don't know, man. It's my business, but to a point, it's also kind of my man cave.
Oh yeah.
Here's cool spots for my stuff. We have a super cool. If you look on our social medias, you'll see the big Pokemon mural. And when we opened, the gal that does my wife's tattoo work, 3 months from opening, my wife was in getting some ink done, and we're shooting the shit. We're going, yeah, we're gonna open a Pokemon. So she's like, oh my god, I love Pokemon. My husband and I collect the crap out of Pokemon. We absolutely love this. Cool. Have you ever done Pokemon art? She goes, yeah. So well, I have this 25-foot by 12-foot big white wall. Oh, could I? Like, yeah. So we have this huge Pokemon mural, and it's got, the woods and the lake. You got Gyarados coming out of the lake. You got Diglett coming up from the ground underneath. You got it's super cool. It's a feature piece, right? Like people will see that from the window walking by on the sidewalk, and then we'll come into the mall and just go, hey, can my kid stand in front of your wall and I take a picture of him? Of course. Like it's super neat. It's actually been a Pokestop in Pokemon Go on and off. Is the
No kidding.
E4 Pokemon mural is a Pokestop.
That's very cool.
It's little stuff like that. We really just try to make it comfortable. Technology wise, like we've got guest Wi-Fi. So if somebody's sitting here and wants to be on their phone or needs to be on their phone for an event, cool. Here's the little thing, scan, get on the Wi-Fi. We've got the snack bar with drinks and stuff. We've got a water machine, so somebody brings a water bottle. They don't have to go out and buy a water and pour it in their water bottle. We've just got the little Philly machine over here. We go back and forth on bulk and not quite bulk and how we're working that. For a long time we had 8 feet of table out here with bulk boxes on it, and it was just, yeah, man, 50 cents a card, or here, fill one of these boxes up with a 500 count box, fill that up for $10, take it home, have fun, whatever, right? Now we've started kind of trimming a little bit, and we're getting more into it's a dollar card, but it's a played staple. So we're going to peel that out and we're going to put it in a separate box, and it's going to be alphabetized and sorted. So if you're looking for a card, you go right to where it is. And we charge $1.50 for those, So we're always kind of evolving that system. So there's a table for that. Yeah. It's a cool spot, I think.
How'd you come up with the store name?
So Pokemon, the Elite Four trainers in Pokemon. I don't know how much you know about Pokemon lore, right? But the old Elite Four trainers that they had to battle through in the anime, right? And I wanted to do something around that. I felt like if I opened a game store and I put the word elite outside, I was kind of being a dick. Like it would just come across as dude, like, this is the elite card store, right? So just shortened it and went with E4, and E4 cards and more kind of has a neat little jingle to it, and so we ran with it.
That's great. I like the little backstory behind it. Well, before we wrap up here, my final question for you is what do you see for the future of the store? What's like either something in the near future or something that could be, for lack of a better word, a pipe dream that you would like to see happen?
I would love to be able to grow to the point where we could do more community oriented stuff, not necessarily more products to sell, but just to make it a cooler place to be. If we could get to the point where we could afford to, maybe put a hood in and do a little kitchen and like, 3 or 4 hours a day we serve food, right? Come in and get a grilled cheese and some chicken nuggets or, cheese sticks, whatever, right? Have some sort of food here. I would love to grow to the point where we could do more with buying and selling. I enjoy that part of the business. I love when somebody comes in and they've got a pile of cards that they're not playing, and I can look at those cards and go, yeah, man, here, cool. I'll give you a whole bunch of store credit, and they can turn it into something that they're going to play. It keeps the cards in the loop, keeps the cards cycling, gives everybody an opportunity to do it, and of course helps pay the rent for the space too, right? We've looked into we currently own a Rokus order and a card bot. We've got a $40,000-$50,000 tied up in sorting equipment, and if I had my druthers, we would have another 30 or 40 in there with a couple different machines to kind of make the process better. I would love to get just the Pac-Man machine was literally walking through Costco buying groceries one day, and I saw this thing sitting there. It was like $200, right? It's got Pac-Man, it's got Galaga, it's got all this dumb stuff on it. I'm like, that's cool. It's $150. I'll grab that for the store, and I hung it up. It's been the coolest $150 I've ever spent. I would love to go out and get, maybe like some pinball machines or something in here. If it's got a quarter slot on it and I can make a couple bucks on it, cool. If not, like, it's just something that's here and fun, right?
Yep.
I really, really enjoy. I'm in my mid 40s. I had a good career in the industry I was in before. I'm at the point now where my goal with working and owning the business is to have that family time, to have that cool spot, right? To be the spot where, like, hey man, I'm coming up to Bend. Do you want to go play Magic? Yeah, you got to go check out E4, man. This is the coolest spot to play, right? I want to be that. I don't. My wife yells at me because I don't care so much about the financial numbers. Obviously, we got to pay bills. Obviously, got to pay my employees and pay myself enough to live, right? But beyond that, I don't care about that. I care about the interactions, and so anything that we can do to build that interaction and build that community is huge. And that's where I want to focus, because my daughter's 11. She's going to grow up into the world that we're building into, regardless of anybody's opinions on it. If I can come out and I can make that world a little bit better place and a little bit cooler place through card games, of all things.
All things.
How neat is that, right? If I have the opportunity to do that and leave that world that much better for my daughter and her generation, what else is cooler that I could do?
And the fact that you're doing it with your family, like, that's something I still continue to harp on and like so much about what you're doing, Steve. And I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you on. Before we wrap up, is there anywhere you want to direct people to that are listening here that they could check out more about your store?
Look, if you want to check us out, if you're in the Central Oregon area, come in and check us out. We're at e4cards.com. Has our physical location, our phone number, all of our socials. If you're not and you want to support, or maybe we have a single you're looking at or something, you can shop online. We'll ship and deliver. We don't do any sealed product. That's for our locals. We just do singles. Give us a follow on socials. We have a pretty cool community on socials. We do giveaways and stuff. And the more people we have involved, the better it is.
Awesome. And I'll be sure, Steve, to link off the location to your website. And I really appreciate you coming on again. It's been a fun time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Frank. This has been a blast.